Welcome back to another episode of the Black Cinema Experience
Podcast.
I'm your girl, JB.
And I'm Cameron.
And this week we're back with another exciting series to review. We're talking about Queenie, now streaming on Hulu, starring a beautiful, gorgeous,
Bangin'.
but girl, your body banging actress by the name of Dion Brown. And because I'm a Brown, she must be my cousin.
You have to be related somehow.
Obviously, I just want to be related or something. This show is so good. It's streaming on Hulu. Now, one thing I want to talk about is we need more of it. Before we even get into talking about it, season 1 was so good. So juicy, so epic, so relatable, so necessary. The first 10 minutes of episode 1 started so many conversations for us, just like as a society. I don't want to get too deep into it. I'm gonna pass it to Cameron, but we're gonna circle the block on this one. Cameron, Queenie.
I mean,
what are your thoughts?
I have so many emotions, but my thoughts are like relevant. Again, like you said, necessary. There's so much to say about the show because I feel like it's so impactful. And as somebody who's very, very only America first in cinema, like to come to see something, the story of South London is very reminiscent of like Black people, like talking about like I feel like Compton or like South or like the Bronx or something like that. It felt like very Black but relatable in a sense,
you know
even though it's from a different country.
When you say that Black and relatable in South London. They did talk about that in like the little extras where the writer of the show is going into detail about like basically the motivation for the show, like who's like important in it, like what are we looking at here. She actually refers to South London as the character in the show. And I like that because like when you have certain shows like Insecure, right? Like a huge part of the show is showing us some of LA's favorite food spots that, Issa has.
Exactly.
And like doing like the over the city views and like we're really getting to know this area. And that is something I liked about Queenie a lot too. The fact that we're seeing South London through these like South Londoners' eyes. We're seeing their city, their town, their everyday walk. You know what I mean? And what that could possibly look like. So I do enjoy learning about the city through that. That's a wonderful pickup.
I know. I'm glad you said it too because I got the same thing from She's Gotta Have It, her from her being in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like so like I love that
with
aspect.
The brownstone.
Exactly.
You gotta have a brownstone.
Well, it's just like when you can feel the character. I feel like it makes it so more relatable, which actually draws you more into the story.
Yeah.
Which again they did so well with just all the characters from whether it be her grandparents, her best friends. I just really like the series. I feel like the series is very, I don't know, it's just like a breath of fresh air. Like and like this to see a character's development like happen so gradually but also gracefully. And I don't know, I just loved it. And again, it wasn't a cut clean story, but it was such a good representation of like how life can go. And it just, I don't know, it just gave me faith for like my future. And,
no,
like,
seriously. Hope. They like the writer of the show talks about it being like Queenie having like these catalysts that push into a quarter life crisis. And what's important about that is acknowledging that there is a quarter life crisis.
No, for real.
Like we don't talk about it enough, but when you're 25, something does happen. I always tell everybody I meet that's 24, I'm like, when you're 25, things are going to change for you dramatically. Like something clicks in your brain, things make sense. You can read the same passage that you read 10 years ago, but at 25, it matters. It means something different. Like you have a different understanding, a different layer of just intelligence to you. So to see Queenie essentially in this super pivotal transition period while she's trying to deal with her relationship, while she's dealing with crisis with her own self-identity, while she's dealing with family struggles. I mean, it's huge. And for me as a 30-something, I watch the show and I feel connected to it because these are still transitions that, even though for her it's happening at 25, very much so can, be applicable to someone who's 30, even 40.
Exactly.
She's going through identity issues. She's going through therapy. She's going through, like female problems. Like she's going through a little bit of everything. So this show to me, it like really encapsulated the Black female experience in a way that we don't get to see. We don't get to actually like bond with often.
You get to examine.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just ask you this question because I know you care. Queenie and her white boyfriend. I know you care. I know you want to talk about it. So, like, tell us how you felt as a Black man seeing this gorgeous...
Banging.
Girl, your
fine,
body bang.
literally like
This beautiful reflection of this black woman, only essentially dealing with a white man. How did that make you feel?
Well, I want to start off by saying I love love, so it's not necessarily about race, but I do feel obviously we do know. I do think in the black community we do understand like a lot of times certain ways that race plays into interracial relationships does matter. Like there are those people who date outside their race because they essentially hate themselves a lot of times too. To make it simple, so that's what I don't appreciate. But in this show, they the creator ended up mentioning about it, like saying that she wanted to explore her relationship to black men, and I feel like that is important because a lot of us tend to look outside our race and usually into white partners for like this sense of like security or like sometimes approval or sometimes like just out of frustration of dealing with some women, black men, and black men, black women. So I feel like it's always can be like a really touchy subject. It always can seem like it's always just messy because again, I'm not against black people dating outside their race. Like I think love is beautiful, but I also understand like there's a lot of that comes into it, especially being black, like that you have to think about, like the implications. Why am I dating this person outside my race? And in this show, they show how she had to deal with racism and how her partner wasn't even down to really defend her because, again, in their experience, you're always angry or it's always something, but in real life, it is always something. So I'm not always angry, but it's like there is always some form of prejudice or racism that I have to deal with, especially when it's coming from white people like, and then your partner is white and it's coming from their family. It's like, how do you deal with that? Because you have to deal with this family forever if I'm going to be your partner, essentially.
Yeah.
And but then you can't deal with it all the time. It's kind of like, so for me, it's like I feel like in real life, you need to be able to fight for your partner at all costs and be able to deal with them. But in a show like this, I feel like it really is important to explore those options because it is something that's becoming more common too.
It is.
And again, it can be a great thing, but people have to understand the complexities that go behind it and then also understand the psychology of why you're doing it.
Yeah. And I want to address the same topic with a different perspective as well. This writer created this story and she set Queenie up with all of these white men. And in that way, she indirectly expanded on the relationship between black women and black men. Indirectly.
Absolutely.
And sometimes with race and religion, like race and dating, I'll say for our culture, for black people in America, or in the UK, like where colorism is like ever present. You know what I'm saying? Like it's easier to talk about the absence of it's better for she did the right approach. Yeah, is what I'm trying to get at. Her not saying like, well, Queenie doesn't want to date black men because black men don't.
Done this exactly.
We didn't have to talk about what black men do or don't do. We didn't have to see. This is what we're talking about, black men. We did not have to bash black men for us to see the relationship and like where the holes were for Queenie in relation to men. We did not have to get on there and talk about them horribly to make a point that they're terrible or whatever. We're not. No one's calling black men terrible, but this writer simply used the absence of a healthy relationship with the black man to give us another layer of Queenie, showing her trauma with relationships, showing her own issues with her own identity. So I loved her approach because in our community we can't directly like it's a stiff market for black people out there. Like in certain states, you might not even make eye contact with a black man because he don't really mess with black women or whatever.
They don't interact with black women.
They don't interact, and there are plenty of times where I see black men purposefully not interacting with black women, and it could be because they're in interracial relationships that they're hypersensitive about, or it could be for numerous reasons. But I just love the fact that the writer of the show created that space. And the best way to really define a relationship, I guess, because writers nowadays are so lazy. This was such a active way to create that, to show us that relationship issue, to show us that dynamic between Queenie and black men. Because on one side you see Queenie dating these white men. These white men are drawn into her, or let me call them other men because she got the Indian dude too. Yeah. These men are drawn by her beauty. They're so into her. They're so down with what she's talking about, whatever. But then you have black the black man, and she like immediately kind of like bros him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she puts him into that like friend box category. Like she doesn't even want to like him. She doesn't want to fall for the I like Frank type thing, because you know black men are players and black men hurt people. That's why their cousin Cheske, the best friend, that's why she was telling Frank like don't mess with Queenie, like because we don't. There's like a apparent very strong distrust in the community between black men and black women, no matter what country you're in.
No, literally.
Apparently.
I mean, and again, like I hate to go back to like the idea of that everything stems from racism, but you have to understand too, like with a broken family structure and like that a lot of people do have, it is tough to like mend those relationships. But I do like that this story was shared elegantly, like you said. It wasn't done in a way that's like shaming. It was because she wasn't even shaming Queenie by the way she had like let it resolve throughout the story, you know. Like, and I did that with a lot of different certain areas, like even with like areas was struggling with womanhood, you know, struggling with things such as like a miscarriage or something like that, you know. Like it was never like everything was shown, but nothing was never preached at you essentially, because in a story like this, you want the character to learn. You're essentially on the journey with the character, which is again kudos to the writers of the show, you know, and the creator of the show, because again, it was so organic.
Yeah.
And we got to learn with Queenie. And I feel like a lot of times with these shows now, we have to be told what to do, and that's not beneficial for anybody. And especially for our black story, I want to be able to grow with other black people, you know, and see them, especially somebody who's so close to our age, quote unquote, close to our age, but not necessarily just age, but like in development.
Yeah.
When people are trying to better themselves. And the thing is, when we're young and black, seeing yourself develop and seeing people able to make mistakes and still be successful in a story like this is something that, again, that's why I say gave me hope, because I'm like, it's going to be okay. You know, things are going to happen. Her life wasn't pretty, you know, like at all, but she had good moments. But like, it took work, it took development, it took, self-actualization. It took a lot for her to heal. Yeah. But at the end, you start to see like
her healing
and being healed, like, essentially. And I just love that.
I want to talk about something you mentioned, which was the use of them narrating the story. Now, it's not narration so much. It's like her having the inside voice.
Yeah.
Now, for years and years and years in film, that was frowned upon. You don't tell the audience what to think, just exactly what you just said right now. But they were able to use the like Queenie's inside voice. We were able to hear her inner thoughts without them telling us what Queenie was trying to do or feel. Because there was parts where I watched a show where I was frustrated with Queenie, like, Queenie, say something. Yeah. Queenie, do something. Exactly. And we're hearing her inside thoughts. So we even hear the silence where she can't speak up for herself. And to me, even that was like powerful. I love the way that they use that like inside voice thing to help shape the character without shaping the audience.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I loved it.
It was internal dialogue, but it wasn't omniscient, like, like that all-knowing being telling you,
now this is why I broke up with Tom. You know what I mean? It was like, no, like she was like trying to communicate, struggling, and then we're watching her like dealing with the struggle of not being able to communicate effectively. Like we're watching her kind of grieve her relationship because she couldn't say what she needed to say, and because she didn't have like, I don't know. I don't want to get too far into that. I want to talk about the gynecologist visit in the first episode.
I was uncomfortable.
That was so triggering. Women, oh my gosh, did you see that? Did you see what the gynecologist did to her? Yeah. She stuck it in her. They're asking her questions about her personal life, who she's hooking up with, when she's hooking up with them, what are her plans for babies. Like, it was so aggressive, but relatable. How many times have you gone to the gynecologist for something and had like this awkward interaction with someone all up in your business for medical reasons? But like, do you ask men these questions? Do you ask men how many sexual partners you have? Do you ask men if they're currently using protection? Like, do you are there? It's just so judgmental. And like being the opening scene for the show, it was like a crazy way to set the tone of how intimate we were going to be with this character. It was also showing us Black women having issues with the medical field, not being listened to, not being heard. The woman couldn't even remember her name. You know what I'm saying? But it was also showing us like just her having like the world of problems on her plate. What a crazy intro. Was that jarring to you as a man to watch?
As I felt like it's everything you said, because it set us up to like, okay, we're going to be very intimate with this character, because you can't get any closer gynecologist visit.
Yeah.
So like I had already knew that it was like a setup like okay we're about to go deep. But like again I loved how throughout the series they let things play out and you got the message by how things played out. The doctor was not listening to her. We know that happens to black women in the medical field. Later on, you see throughout the show, certain men approaching her, like and sometimes it is a little racial. Sometimes like her dealing with a married man, like like knowing and then unknowing, like different real life scenarios people have gone through, but nothing being preached. It's you experiencing with her for the first time. You found out he's married. Oh, we just found out he married. Like so it's like going on that journey. And it started from the opening scene. Yeah. And it finishes at the last scene too.
And for me too, like also being able to also the doctor, she made a comment about her being a strong woman.
Yeah.
I was like triggering.
No, for real.
Because we're not given the option. If you had the option between being strong or being delicate, we would choose to be delicate. We're Absolutely. Not choosing to be strong. Life is giving us hard things and we're just overcoming them because we have no other choice. But it's not like we're walking around begging to be strong. We're not trying to be soldiers. We're not trying to fight that fight. But anyways, with this show, watching Queenie's development, seeing how she's growing and getting through these scenarios in life, it just makes me feel again like you said earlier, like I can grow. Like there's limit, like it's limitless. Like it's trial and error. Like we're going through these things with Queenie as she's figuring them out. They wrote this character so well and they gave her so much space to grow. You know what I mean? And seeing her have like that conflict with her best friend about the guy that she was dating and she didn't know who he was. Seeing her, for me, the part that like I connected to the most was the moments that this strong black woman who, like, she basically was a really solid character. She really was good at speaking up for herself, except for the few moments that she wasn't. And those moments mattered. For me, I connected to that so deeply because, like, yes, right? Like, I can speak up for myself in work. I can speak up for myself, maybe even with my family, but in relationships or in friendships, speaking up for myself or finding that voice to say what I really feel is a lot harder because I don't want to hurt you.
Yes.
And watching Queenie go through these different scenes where she's struggling to say the right words because she's protecting someone, but also not protecting herself because she's not letting it be known what she feels, what she's going through, whatever.
Exactly.
It's like, it was just so crazy how, like, she couldn't move forward and we knew why, because she can't get past that hurdle. So like this show for me was like a 10 out of 10, not just because Dion Brown is fine, is all get out, but because the storyline really like let the character evolve and let the character grow. It let real life happen. Like when your ex comes back after you finally got over them and they sitting there with flowers and you're like, nigga, what are you doing? Like, I wanted you back for 17 months.
Exactly.
You left me hanging in the dirt. And now that I'm over you with this fine black stallion, here you come. I want to see you.
And the thing is, I feel like this is something I would show like a young adult, like one of my little cousins, like that, like when they turn 18, like like
better than Degrassi.
For real. Well, because again, like I feel like we don't get to see black stories like this, and like see black people evolve a lot of times, and a lot of times, again, black people always overcome, and I don't. Yes, we want to overcome, but I want to evolve. I want to. When I get past what I've been through, I want to physically, mentally, emotionally, religiously, spiritually, like be better.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I got to see. And I feel like that's always such a good journey to go on and to see it like executed so well for black people, especially for black women.
Yeah.
To see somebody lose their power and then like struggle with it, but didn't have it.
Yeah.
And be confident about it. So enlightening. And again, I feel like shows like this are important because again, it's real life. It seems like real life. I feel like this. I feel like Queenie really does exist.
She even had to find her voice in therapy.
Yes,
and that's like a whole nother like layer to explore. Like going to therapy as a black woman, dealing with all these traumas, and then being told like you're doing it wrong, you're handling it wrong. It's like, God, you just get to the brim where you're like, listen to me. You're crying, listen to me. So like. This show, again, like, I'm not going to call it triggering because I just feel like I overuse that word sometimes, but I will say that this show, it was very relatable. It hit me on deep levels. Even at my age, I still feel like some of those lessons, either I'm still learning, you know what I mean? Because, like, at the end of the day, like, when it comes down to even Queenie reacting to the grandma at the table, and she was like, hopefully you're dead by then. it was like what she truly like honestly felt. Like she was going through dealing with a racist, situation.
Yeah.
Like she only was being true to herself. So like it's just crazy to watch this show and her having so many moments where she had to like look herself in the mirror where she was forced to growth. It's just a necessary show. That's all I can say.
But I also want to talk about a little bit about the family dynamic that they showed, and I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of, I would say, it was triggering for me because again, you get to see a family in all its flaws, but also like a family that does genuinely love each other,
Right.
and like aren't trying to hurt each other, but
come from different times,
come from different times or different situations, and handle things differently, and then to see them all be able to mend and then like make it work. Because that's how real families are. No real family is perfect, and to see like this dysfunctional, functional black family, I thought was really beautiful. To see grandma and grandpa's marriage, to see like stuff they've been through a little bit, and then her aunt, and then her with her problems with her mother, Queenie's with her mother, and then also seeing Queenie be essentially a big sister to her cousin because she doesn't have any siblings, and it's like you see like all those different family dynamics, and they work so well.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I don't know. Again, another positive black family outlook, kind of, but from a different perspective. Because again, it was different. It was not the traditional, two grandparent household, mom and dad. Everybody's married. It's not this perfect cookie cutter family.
Right. It was still a different family dynamic.
Yeah.
And to see Queenie go through the trauma that she had with her mom and try to heal that relationship as well. That was super important. Because
very. Because I feel like you can't heal your inner child, you're not going to heal, period.
Exactly.
And a lot of things that our parents do to us, especially, being black on top of that, I feel like it can be very daunting. And so seeing her go through that and them showing this, again, so eloquently and so sensitively, because, again, I feel like a lot of times we can make people be a villain, and in the sense Queenie's mother is the villain, but they still had a heart, because at the end of the day, this is a black woman, okay? And I'm not saying what people do is right. You have to hold people accountable, which they do in this show. Which again, I feel like there's a balance between holding somebody accountable, but also like accepting them and having grace. And it was such a fine balance that they did, and it made me feel like okay. Because a lot of times I feel like I get like a little upset with like a lot of shows because I feel like they paint, especially like a black woman, to me in like such a bad light. It's like okay, but let's understand why they did it without making them like without us trying to make them feel bad for them necessarily, but helping us understand and develop the character. And so I really appreciate that they did that.
And to see like the mom too, like have her moment of grace as well, like because like Queenie had all these like grudges against her mom, like you weren't there for me, you chose him, and like to see the mom come through like at the end when Queenie needed a place to live, come through and help her out with the money for that, like still be able to redeem herself. Like I love that about this show because why in real life do we look at people's mistakes and we're like, that's all you are? You know what I mean? It's like they have redeeming moments after that. Like things can get better. Like they're not forever messed up just because they made one mistake, because they messed up. You know what I mean? Like, so I just love that in this storyline. And of course, you mentioned it while we were discussing it earlier, but Cheske, the best friend, her real name is Bella. They have moments where they bond, and you get to see that intimate black woman relationship. And it's something that we don't really put on TV or we haven't really grown up seeing. And I love the fact that you kind of, touched on when we were talking earlier. And it's like that layer of like intimacy between black women that we have to have because we have to get ready to put on a brave face to go out into the real world. Like we got to do our cornrows, we got to oil our scalp, we got to do all these things that we don't do out on display. Like you're not going to see black women outside just doing this with each other, like white women putting sunscreen on each back. We're not about to be oiling each other's scalp in the middle of the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we would do.
Exactly.
But to see them have these intimate moments where they're like braiding each other's hair or like, just resting together and just confiding in one another. It really is like black women sisterhood, like friendship. Like some of my closest friends, especially in young age, came from, me needing to get my hair braided.
Exactly.
A girl braided my hair and then,
Literally.
like us talking and bonding. And it's like the type of community that is, I can't explain it. It's I'm sure other communities do it too. But other communities ain't sitting getting their hair braided for 8 hours.
Nah.
Like I know the girl who does my hair, she knows my business. I know her business. Like it's a different type of community. So to see them just bond in that way and have that deep sisterhood type friendship was so beautiful to explore. For me, this show is like a 10 out of 10. I would recommend
Absolutely.
it to anyone.
Mhm.
Probably my parents probably wouldn't get it too much, but I would even recommend it to them so they can get some understanding on the younger generation. Cameron, what are your thoughts on the show? Do you have any negative, any qualms about the show?
I don't have any qualms. I did want to ask, like, because based on the ending, spoiler alert. Essentially, spoiler alert. But her essentially finding black love at the end of the movie. Do you feel like that has to be the necessary solution for a black person to heal? To be controversial?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I think her finding black love was a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Frank just happened to be there, convenient.
Be right.
I don't think that you need to go towards black love to be healed. I think that loving someone and making the choice to love them is a healing act in itself. So I would not say that, black love was the cherry on top for this story. Frank so happened to be black. So no. And I believe in interracial love too. Like, note that, like, I do, like, honestly, like, I respect interracial relationships. And when I look at them sometimes, I can see why people of other races get together. Like white men value certain things that black women also value. That relationship dynamic, I actually kind of understand. Same way I understand white women under like working out with black men sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, as long as it's not racially motivated, the relationship. You know what I mean? Like, I understand the values though, like the values of, like, I'm gonna hold my man down. Like, white girls, they really will ride or die. Like, I saw a video of a homeless man the other day. He had a white girl by his side. He was black, she was white. So they will hold you down. They will hold you down.
Even when you ain't got nothing to hold.
We are not, black women are like, you need to get your shit together. Okay? And like, white men understand, like, I'm not saying all white men. I'm not trying to be general, but I'm just saying, like, speaking about interracial relationships, I do understand the dynamic and how it works sometimes. So I am all for love in whatever form that takes. I don't think that she needed to end with Frank for it to be a good story. I think Frank was just a cherry on top.
I was looking at that from, like, just devil's advocate, trying to see, like, oh, where can we have a negative view? That was for the hoteps. No, but seriously, I did like that she ended up, exploring her sexuality with a black man, because I feel like you shouldn't eliminate anybody. It should be, like you said, like, you should be able to explore anybody. You shouldn't have any mental factors or blocks from exploring anybody. So I just love that she was able to really be free. And I feel one thing I loved about the show is that she was never shackled sexually. I feel like
she was free. She is the
character
character that Spike Lee was trying to write when he did Nola Darling. And he made a empty character. We have never talked about Nola Darling.
We gotta talk about She's Gotta Have It. I'm joking.
She is an empty female character. He did not give her the basis that she needed. Now, Queenie, she is a fulfilled character. She has layers. She has depth. She has growth. There's evolution in her character.
Interesting. Well, y'all definitely gonna get another episode on that. But again, this show, I feel like it didn't have to end on the black love for it to be like the cherry on top. But I was very appreciative that, like, they show blackness in such a positive aspect, and even though it was messy, and I again love that, because again, coming from the black cinema experience, these white people are starting to watch our stuff too more, so they have to see the complexity of it and be able to respect it and see it in, like, I don't want to necessarily say a good light, but see it done well.
There's a difference
so they can understand
between
it.
Messy and trauma.
Yeah.
We don't want to watch trauma porn. Nobody wants to watch the black story of this brokenness, drug addicts, thugs. Nobody wants to watch that trauma. We want to watch messy. White people have been operating in messy spaces since the beginning of time.
For real.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of these white shows that have been on for years and years and years, like Seinfeld. There's like so much messiness in that, because Elaine and Jerry got to sleep together. Like, there's so much messiness in that show that's not trauma related.
Mm-hmm.
And Black people just want to have the ability to tell stories in a messy way too. Like, yeah, life is not always clean and clear cut, but it doesn't have to be trauma.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
True.
we're in the streets
Exactly.
prostituting. It don't gotta be drug addicts
yeah.
or criminals. It could just be like, I can't decide who I want to date, and this man pretended to be single and he wasn't, but he was really dating my friend. I didn't know that. How y'all friends and you didn't know who her man was? It's crazy, but okay.
No, because sometimes people be having men.
I've never.
That they really don't
let me
be
see
like...
the picture. Got a boyfriend? Let me see.
Well, that would have been my first question, because I want to know, is you dealing, who you dealing with? Are they fine? Are they not? Like, what's going on?
Because I'm here to judge you as your friend.
Exactly.
I'm gonna tell you if your man ugly.
Because the eye a little, crooked. You want to like, hey girl, you see the eye? Nothing against people with disabilities. But...
I don't know a single woman that's gonna let that shit slide. If I got a new man, I'm like, girl, my new man, boom. Picture. Yes. This is my new man right here. What? That was crazy. The fact that she didn't. Okay.
But shit happens. It does.
Sure. Sure.
But again, overall, I give it 11 out of 10.
Okay.
Wow. I loved it. I loved it.
Sheesh. Okay, infinity out of 10 for me, since we just racking it up. But no, honestly, love the show. It is streaming on Hulu currently. I'm really fingers crossed hoping that we get a second season of this one, because it is giving Black girl realness in South London. And I think America, like, we really just want to learn more about other countries, however we can. So I want to see some more of this. Make sure you guys check it out. Please feel free to like, comment, share this video if you agree, disagree, whatever with our thoughts on this show. And make sure you check it out. Give these Black people the streams that we deserve, because we want to see more of our stuff. We need those numbers to keep pumping. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Perfect. Thank you for watching the Black Cinema Experience
Podcast.
Bye.